nephew Ben, who lives near Chicago.
You do?
He looks just like that, and he actually is a resident too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Good evening, welcome. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Wilmette. We're going to have a little bit of a procedure at the beginning of the meeting. As you might notice, the village president is unavailable to be here tonight, so we go through a process, if you'll bear with us for just a moment, of appointing a president pro tem who will preside over the meeting tonight. Village clerk notes the probable absence of the presiding officer. Village clerk will now call the roll. Trustee Sullivan.
Here.
Trustee Dukeman.
Here.
Trustee Wolf.
Here.
Trustee Kruger.
Here.
Trustee McKenna.
Here.
Trustee Plunkett.
Here.
President Belinsky. The clerk notes the absence of the presiding officer. The floor is now open for nominations for President Pro Tem for purposes of presiding over this meeting. Are there any nominations?
Yes, I have one. I'd like to nominate Trustee Kruger.
Is there a second?
I'd like to second.
Very well. Trustee Kruger has been nominated and seconded. Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, the nominations are closed. All in favor of Trustee Kruger as President Pro Tem, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, Trustee Kruger is President Pro Tem.
Thank you and good evening. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Wilmette. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming tonight and joining us. As I said, this is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Wilmette. We will call the matters on the agenda in the order in which they appear on the printed agenda. There are copies of the agenda at the front door, and you might want to take a copy so you can follow along and see where your matter will be called. If you plan to address us tonight, we ask that you please come up to the podium, speak clearly into the microphone, and tell us who you are and where you live, as that may be relevant to the matter at hand. We ask that you please speak clearly into the microphone so that we can hear you, and because everything you say and everything that we say is recorded. These recordings are available and turned into the minutes, and they're available on the village website at wilmette.com. Also, our village board meetings are televised on Local Access Channel 6 and on the internet. If you look up in the corners of the room, you will see cameras, and they make it easy for neighbors and the community to follow the proceedings of the village board and see the types of matters that come before us, the questions we ask, and the policies we create. You can also find archive videos of the village board and other local government meetings at wilmette.com. I'd like to personally thank all the residents of Wilmette who tune in regularly to Channel 6 and pay attention to the workings of their village government. Before each meeting, the board members receive a packet of materials. We now receive the board materials electronically, and we read them each week instead of printing them out. This week's packet contained 415 pages. We've all had an opportunity to review all the information in the agenda packet, so if you plan to address us tonight, we ask that you tell us the most relevant material and point out what you really want us to hear and focus on. Finally, we are a community of neighbors and friends, and as such, we want the meetings to be civil and courteous. So as a courtesy to those around you, please take this moment to turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices. Per the roll call, we have a quorum tonight. And now, the first item on the agenda is public comment. During public comment, we ask if there are any members of the audience who would like to address the board on an issue or an item which is not on the agenda. Members of the audience may address the board on matters which are on the agenda tonight when that particular matter is called. So are there any members of the audience who would like to address the board on an item which is not on the agenda? Raise of hands would be terrific, so 2, 3, okay. Great. Please come forward. Tell us who you are, where you live, as that may be relevant.
Good evening. My name is Alan Minoff. I live on Meadow Drive in Wilmette.
I appreciate being able to address this group this evening. I was unable to address the meeting last week. It concerns 1925 Wilmette Avenue development. I've been a resident of Wilmette for 20 years, and I'm urging you to vote against the construction of that project. What makes Wilmette special? Its lakeside location, the great schools, the well-kept, lovely homes, and the sense of community, which Trustee Kruger just referred to. There is a great sense of community here in Wilmette. Diversity, sure, but also it's a very safe place to live. It's a great place to raise a family. It has solid property values bolstered by private owners who meticulously maintain their own property. There is nothing in this proposed project which does anything positive for Wilmette. In fact, the project is the antithesis of what makes the village a desirable place to live. This appearance means the property will be considered a substandard property the day it's completed. Architectural aesthetics are obviously in the eye of the beholder, but there's no way to describe the design as anything besides cheap and ugly. In a few years, it will be an eyesore on the busiest route to the village center. In fact, it'll be an eyesore the day it's completed. The building over parking lot design has been phased out almost everywhere for both looks and safety issues. The whole rationale of giving this project an almost tax-free ride on the dubious argument for affordable housing does not withstand scrutiny. The project is not in keeping with Wilmette's character as a village of mostly privately owned, mostly single-family homes. My cul-de-sac, Meadow Drive, and the village as a whole are examples of diversity in race, national origin, and sexual preference. We were at our block party last month. It is a mini United Nations. Everything, and everybody gets along fine. What all the residents in the cul-de-sac and the village have in common is the ability to afford purchasing their homes and maintaining their own property. And they do a great job. In this country, property rights are based on what you can afford. That's just wanting something does not mean you get to have it. What is the benefit to Wilmette, aside from political activists and other people who maybe are out of the village and the company that wants to build it to make money? What is the benefit to Wilmette of giving 20 lucky and or politically chosen housing lottery winners the privilege of living here? Ours is one of the most desirable communities in all the Chicago metropolitan area. There are many less expensive communities in which 20 units of low or very low, as described in the materials, housing could be built. Playing the veteran card, which they mention constantly, that's just political cover for justifying the project. There is nothing in the materials to suggest how the residents will be actually selected. Do Wilmette residents get preference? Are convicted felons or sex offenders excluded? I checked, I read, I didn't see anything about that. The residents will not be raising their families here. In fact, the presentation materials say the units are not suitable for children. It's not clear, however, how that will work out in practice. If an occupant of a one-bedroom or even a studio were to have a child or invite someone to live there with a child, would they be evicted? I don't know. If an occupant were to have one or even two children after moving in, what would prevent the adults from sleeping in the bedroom and the children in the living room, on the fold-out or on the floor? Once someone in the low, very low income bracket scores a unit in that development, why would they ever leave? This will be the best thing that ever happened to them. And finally, I'm almost done. The materials say the residents are unlikely to have cars, which is why the variance is okay to significantly cut the amount of parking spaces required. But living in that development without a car is impractical. If you want to go grocery shopping, you got to take the 421 bus. It only runs rush hours, only on weekdays, in the morning and evening. It's a very long walk to the Jewel on Green Bay Road. In the winter, it's completely impractical. And finally, there's a very similar development that this company's built a lot of developments. If you want to be like Evanston, move to Evanston. It's only 3 blocks away. You know, higher taxes, lower quality of life, inferior schools, everything you want is right there. Why would you want to be in Wilmette? in the past few years, they have a property at 319 Dempster Street. There have been 294 police incidences on record at that one property. I don't know if the Wilmette Police Department does 294 police incidences in a whole year in Wilmette, and that's just one of their developments. Is this what we want in Wilmette? I don't think so. Deny the required variances. Wilmette can do better than that proposed property. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Before the next speaker speaks, I would like to note that the subject property and the discussion about that is being handled through a planned unit development process. That process is a very well documented, it's a legally regimented process, and there is time for public comment during that process. The meetings was that a week ago or 2 weeks ago, went on quite long, and those meetings are being continued December 1st in these chambers at 7 p.m. So there's opportunity for further input on those as well. This board will not be taking any action on that development today, as it's not on our agenda, and probably will not appear on our agenda for several months. So in light of that, if you're commenting on that, keep it short if you could.
Good evening, Mark Weiermiller, 208 Lawndale, 16-year resident. I've been called a property tax advocate. Most of the time I speak before the boards, I'm trying to keep a lid on the property taxes. Everyone's paying too much, and we could talk about that for hours. But tonight I'm talking about 1925 Wilmette Avenue. It's formerly Legion Hall that's closed now, and they want to build this proposed site there. You just mentioned that we can wait till the planning meeting, which we had the other night, about 300 people in here, and they were going to vote on approving it that night. So that's my understanding. So if you're talking about waiting till December 1st, it's probably going to be too late. And that's why we're here tonight. That's why I'm here. So I'm concerned about the process on this. It seems to be going very, very fast. They want to give people out on Channel 6 and other people in the room some background on this. This is a 75 by 200 foot lot, basically a single family lot. In East Wilmette, you need 75 feet to build. In the West Wilmette area, west of the tracks, you need 50 feet. But you could not build two homes on this lot. They want to build a 20-unit apartment building here. And that's one issue right off the bat. Also, they seem to be bypassing, I think you just alluded to it, bypassing the zoning process that goes through the Wilmette Zoning Board of Appeals, I believe it's called, and this would go right to the village board for a vote after the planning commission. So maybe this would not even be discussed in zoning, and there's a number of zoning variances, including not enough parking spots, going higher than other buildings, on and on. Another issue right now is the property is tax-free. There's no taxes being generated on this, no property taxes. So basically everyone else, including myself, who has an enormous, for me, we're paying an enormous tax bill. We'll have to pay more because some of the properties are not paying very much. It's my understanding this property will continue to be a tax-free property if it's considered affordable, Section 8, low income, whatever this kind of housing ends up being, that they'll be paying no property taxes, which would be nice. I would like to have that arrangement where I pay no property taxes. I'd have a lot more money. So it appears most of the neighbors around there, if not all of them, oppose this project. And in my 16 years in Wilmette, I've never seen anything like this. A little bit with the Langdon Beach project, which failed by 70% opposed to it. But this project seems to be about 100% opposed. I'm surprised the village board is even contemplating this. I would ask that they do much more due diligence on the project. Speaking of due diligence, the Ford project, which I'd like to see built, the old Ford dealership on Green Bay Road, has taken years to develop, and I don't see anybody breaking ground on there. So I would be happy if this project took at least that long, maybe 10 years, and then ended up being a single-family home, possibly two homes if you wanted to grant them a variance. The groups that are opposed to this, and this is neighbors, this is moms and dads, families, soccer moms, there's a lot of people upset. They're organizing, if you want to see, there's a Facebook page about it, there's a website starting tomorrow. Again, I've never seen anything like this in Wilmette. There's a lot of opposition to this project. So there's a board meeting in 2 weeks from today. I expect people to be opposed or for it. And I expect them to speak at that meeting, and then the planning meeting you alluded to on December 1st. It's my understanding there'll be a vote that night. Then it will go before the village board, possibly the following month, which is right around Christmas. It could just get right through, and they could possibly be breaking ground on February 1. So the time is of the essence. I'm very concerned. I hope the village sits back, maybe an executive session, talk about this, because I know there's legal implications, there's grant money, there's a lot of things going on people aren't talking about. So I'd like you to just sit back a little bit and maybe slow down on this project. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, some of what the gentleman said was accurate. Obviously, any member of the public can speak about any matter of public concern, but a few things just to set the record correct. At no point during the Plan Commission hearing did the chairman or any member of the commission indicate they were ready to vote that night. To the contrary, the Plan Commission chairman indicated that they would take as long as needed to hear from the public. The second part is the gentleman mentioned that it seems that this project is attempting to bypass the zoning process. That couldn't be further from the truth. As you indicated, Mr. Chairman, that project is in fact in the middle of the zoning process. This board does not have jurisdiction over that process at this point. And it is in the middle of the zoning process as called for by the zoning code. Those are just two corrections. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Lisa Berganza, and I am a neighbor also of the proposed development, Cleveland Place. And I'm speaking in support of it. I have heard and read lots that is inaccurate about it. I am one of those soccer moms who lives in the neighborhood, has kids. I don't complain about my taxes. I might be very unusual in that, but I appreciate all that I get for living in Wilmette. And I also would like to see other people able to be here who aren't just like the rest of us. As somebody who has a parent who was born elsewhere, I very much appreciate a diverse environment. Having grown up with families around me who would comment on the very dark skin of my father and talk about how the property values, they were surprised that they hadn't gone down when my family moved into the neighborhood. We've made a great deal of progress, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to live here with my kids. I happen to have a child with a disability. It's a behavioral disability. It's the type of thing that this community has been very accommodating of, and I very much appreciate that. But we're very good with kids. Our kids grow up. We would like to have a place for our kids to be able to continue to live in our community, to be able to be under the same police department, fire department, continue to go to the same library, to be able to come here and speak at meetings. That's what we're talking about here. This is not some development that is going to be filled with sex offenders. It will not be filled with criminals. There are guidelines for who can live there. There's a great deal of fear, and there has been fear previously when developments like this have happened. When Malincrot and Shoreline and, you know, when this village has considered other affordable housing, there's been a great deal of fear. And there's nothing wrong with us talking about it, and there is a process in place for us to be able to educate the community, and we certainly spend time doing that. I appreciate that we have to address the fears in the community, but they are that. They are not the reality. I appreciate that the village has made an effort to be able to work with the Housing Development Corporation. And I think that if people would listen and not react first, but listen to what the proposed project is, I think that that a lot more people, including soccer moms like me, would come to not be afraid of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak tonight on an item that's not on the agenda?
Bob Davis, 227 Kilpatrick. My issue goes back to my biggest issue in Wilmette, and that has to do with our water plan or lack thereof. This building at least has to have an incremental effect on the sanitary sewer and as it flows out to Princeton. I don't believe we've done any real work sanitary-wise in that area like we have west of Ramona. And I could be wrong there, but I sure haven't heard of it. And it may or may not have an effect, depending on what they do, on the storm sewers. We in Wilmette have had, in West Wilmette anyway, have had the continuing issue with shall we say, storms. And until we see what we've got with the, whatever we're going to get as far as the sanitary system is concerned and whatever kind of plan we come up with for the storm sewers, I have regrettably come to the opinion that we should hold off on doing any permitting in Wilmette except for safety or for flood remediation. I'm sorry, but that's where I've got to after watching everything that has occurred. And for that reason and that reason alone, I'm against this particular development. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment on something that's not on the agenda tonight?
Hi, good evening. My name is Ivan Maraduena. I'm a fairly new resident of Wilmette. I live at 2139 Sandy Lane. I welcome diversity. I'm of a Hispanic origin. I was born in Ecuador, and I'm a naturalized citizen. Much of my family lives in Ecuador. My issue is with the due diligence process. I think my recommendation is that there should be heavy due diligence conducted on HODC, not just this project, but HODC in general and their other buildings. Myself, like many citizens, are concerned, but my concern has to do with what type of company is this? How are they operating? In the very short time that I've had to look into this, I'm starting to see that part of the issues that they're having at the Evanston project don't necessarily have to do with the residents. I believe it has more to do with HODC. I believe that they are understaffed. I believe that they're very dependent on social services to provide the needs of those citizens that are there, and they just don't have the help. So the very citizens they claim to help are not being helped. I don't see this project being a benefit to the occupants that will be there, regardless of who they are. I don't think it's a reflection of who's going to move in there. It's more of who's going to be running it. I think their main motivation, the big winner of all this, the person who has the least amount to lose, is the developer. He's going to make that fee, and if the project is unsuccessful for any reason, the people who are going to be stuck with it is the village of Wilmette and the citizens of Wilmette. And it's going to be a difficult problem to fix. So my recommendation is just do more due diligence, as the citizens are requiring and certainly deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on a subject that is not on the agenda tonight? The next item on our agenda is item number 3, which is the consent agenda. As described in the printed agenda, routine business and other items that appear to have unanimous support of the trustees are placed on the consent agenda. All items tonight on the agenda, beginning with the 3, so that's items 3.1 to 3.17, are on the consent agenda. They are up for approval tonight, and if they are not removed by a member of the audience from the consent agenda, or by one of the trustees, they will be approved and will not be discussed. So let me begin by asking if there are any members of the audience who would like to remove an item from the consent agenda. Seeing no one raising their hands for that, I will move on asking if there are any items that the trustees would like removed from the consent agenda. Seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
It is moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Trustee Sullivan?
Aye.
Trustee Dukeman?
Aye.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee McKenna?
Yes.
Trustee Plunkett?
Aye.
President Pro Tem Kruger?
Yes. The motion carries. The consent agenda has been adopted. If you are here for any items on the consent agenda, they have been approved. To clarify for people that are here tonight, it's all items 3.1 through 3.17. If that's something you've been waiting for, you don't need to wait anymore. They've been approved. There will be no further discussion of these items, so you're free to leave, or you can stay as well and see how we operate the rest of the meeting. But if you are leaving, please go to dinner downtown in Wilmette and support our local restaurants.
I'm Christy from A La Carte, and I would like to say thank you.
No, you're so welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll be open soon.
Good. Item 4 is the report of officers. Item 4.1 is a request for an executive session to discuss the sale or lease of real estate pursuant to Section 2, subsection C, sub 6 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act. Next, we'll move for the report of the village manager, Mr. Frenzer.
No report, Mr. President.
The next report is from our corporation counsel, Mr. Zimmerman.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
And the last report is from the liquor commissioner, and there is no report tonight. Item 6 is the standing committee reports, so we'll move to our standing committee reports. First up is land use. Trustee Sullivan.
All 5 items were approved on consent.
Trustee Dukeman.
4 items under consent.
Trustee Wolf.
All items covered on consent?
All items on the municipal services are on consent.
We have no report in public safety.
All items on judiciary are covered on consent.
Terrific. Thank you very much. There are no reports from special committees. All new business was taken with the consent agenda. There are no actions to take regarding pending matters that have been referred to standing committees. Do I have a motion to adjourn to an executive session to discuss the sale or lease of real estate pursuant to Section 2, sub C, sub 6 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Requires a roll call vote.
Oh, sorry. I'm told it requires a roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Trustee Sullivan?
Aye.
Trustee Dukeman?
Aye.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee McKenna?
Aye.
Trustee Plunkett?
Aye.
President Pro Tem Kruger?
Aye. We stand adjourned to the executive session.